Tao is the synthesis of all laws. Within a certain time and space, these laws are immutable, enduring, and dependable. Every morning, the red sun rises from the east, the seasons change timely throughout the year, seeds sown in suitable soil will inevitably sprout, grow, and eventually bloom and bear fruit, rivers naturally flow downstream. It has been like this for thousands of years. Eggs are hatched in 21 days, yielding chicks. After giving birth, mother's milk will surely follow, tides ebb and flow, flowers bloom and wither, flocks of geese migrate southward, the moon waxes and wanes. Everything follows a pattern, everything can be trusted and relied upon. This is the characteristic of Tao, eternal reliability. The sum of the interior angles of a triangle is 180 degrees, pi is always 3.1415926, energy equals mass times the speed of light squared, velocity multiplied by time equals distance traveled. To escape the solar system, an object must reach or exceed a velocity of 16.7 kilometers per second. Oxygen and iron embrace to become iron oxide. Halley's Comet appears once every 76 years, the moon continually orbits the Earth. It takes a little over 365 days for the Earth to orbit the Sun once. When full, hunger disappears. With the onset of puberty, there arises a sexual impulse. When a light is turned on, darkness is dispelled. Collision between positive and negative cloud layers can trigger thunder and lightning. Everything is so precise, orderly, and systematic. This is determined by the eternal reliability of Tao. Swallowing a bottle of sleeping pills will definitely result in never waking up again. Consuming croton seeds will surely cause diarrhea. Drinking a bowl of concentrated arsenic water will undoubtedly result in immediate death. Placing one's hand in a blazing fire will certainly result in burnt skin and flesh. Planting potatoes will definitely not yield sweet potatoes. It is unquestionable that those who are near vermilion get stained red, and those who are near ink get stained black. 1. Will surely not pick bananas from an apple tree. Constructing skyscrapers on quicksand is surely impossible. Dialing the signal 0086 will definitely connect you to China. Cutting a blade on the back of the hand will surely draw blood. Flying in synchronous orbit with the Earth's rotation will always be either morning or another time. Hitting oneself on the head with a stone will surely feel painful. Why can we be so sure? Because this is determined by the eternal reliability characteristic of Tao. Understanding this characteristic of Tao holds profound significance. Not only can it effectively and fully utilize laws to serve oneself, avoiding wastage of personal energy and mitigating risks, but more importantly, it enables recognition of the inevitability of change in all things. Consequently, one can confidently carry out current tasks without hesitation or doubt, steadfastly progressing towards their goals. For example, if we aim to reach the 1,000-year world, as long as our consciousness resonates with the beings of the 1,000-year world and we adopt their way of life and existence, there is no doubt that we will surely arrive there. We will have no doubts about this. Why? Because it is determined by the eternal reliability of Tao. Pursuing the sun will certainly escape darkness. Aspire to the 1,000-year world and persistently practice and cultivate towards it, surely, we will reach the 1,000-year world. Doubt arises from uncertainty, and uncertainty stems from not recognizing the eternal reliability characteristic of Tao. Once one acknowledges this aspect of Tao, it becomes as certain as knowing that placing fermented dough in a steamer for about 15 minutes will undoubtedly yield edible steamed buns. Good deeds bring good rewards, evil deeds bring evil consequences. This is the eternal characteristic of Tao, it is reliable. Those who commit numerous evil deeds will surely descend into hell, while those who fulfill virtuous deeds will inevitably become celestial beings or Buddhas and ascend to heaven. This is an iron rule, determined by the eternal reliability characteristic of Tao, not subject to the will of any individual. If we do good deeds, there's no need to anxiously await results. Why be in a rush? When the time comes, the results will naturally manifest. Small changes gradually emerge, while big changes happen in an instant. Through daily cultivation, progress may not be visible, but suddenly one day, one has already become a celestial being. A rope rubbing against a wooden board will cut into it, and water dripping onto a stone will wear it down. Channels form when water flows, the pedicels of ripe melons fall. These are enduring laws, reliable. What is there to doubt? There are no random events in the universe, everything is the inevitable result of causes and conditions. There are no coincidences or accidents, everything follows a predetermined pattern. This isn't something made up by Xuefeng, it is determined by the eternal reliability characteristic of Tao. The type of consciousness one possesses corresponds to the form of existence one embodies, and the manner of thinking determines one's way of life. This is neither superstition nor speculation but rather a summary and reflection of the patterns life presents across different times and spaces. Having understood the eternal reliability characteristic of Tao, one should steadfastly journey and cultivate toward Celestial Islands continent. As long as persistence is maintained, one will undoubtedly reach Celestial Islands continent. This endeavor is perpetually reliable, and Tao does not deceive people. Xuefeng Preaching Tao, 3. Xuefeng. May 17, 2008. Tao is the consciousness of the greatest creator, the driving force behind the movement and transformation of all things in the universe. It is the lifeblood of the universe, it is nature, and the synthesis of all laws. Tao possesses 8 characteristics: holographic order, eternal reliability, instantaneous sensitivity and adaptability, transcendence over time and space with no interior or exterior, justice, immediacy, and illusory yet actual existence. The third characteristic of Tao, instantaneous sensitivity and adaptability. Tao is the most subtle and sensitive sensor in the universe. It instantaneously senses, records, and responds to the slightest changes at any time, place, or thing, without the slightest delay or negligence. Whether it's the changes in a galaxy or the changes in a fundamental particle, whether it's actions taken by humans or the fleeting thoughts in their minds, Tao accurately senses, records, and responds without missing a single microsecond. You may deceive people and other living beings, but you cannot deceive Tao, for Tao resides within us. In every drop of our blood, in every cell, in every nerve pathway, in every breath, in every heartbeat, and in every thought, Tao is present, sensing and responding. Therefore, the more honest a person is, the more they align with the characteristics of Tao. From this, we realize that any deception ultimately deceives not others or other beings, but oneself. Inner prayers, acts of repentance, wishes, and blessings all carry weight, value, and significance. Any disaster, whether it's a slip or a fall, a car accident, or an earthquake, can be prevented and avoided. As the ancient sages said, a single thought can move ghosts and gods, a single action can change heaven and earth. The difference between calamity and fortune, sorrow and joy, lies in the slightest difference in thought. Whether a camel will be crushed depends on the last straw, and which way the balance tips depends on the final gram. This is because Tao possesses the characteristic of instantaneous sensitivity. Tao is not dead, but alive. It possesses eternal reliability, yet it is not a rigid and unchanging machine, it is adaptable and can generate myriad phenomena. Wherever there is space, life, or changes, there are Tao's methods. On a macroscopic level, Tao's principles are constant, while on a microscopic level, they are constantly changing, arising and ceasing in each moment. On a macroscopic scale, there are stages of birth, abiding, decay, and emptiness, while on a microscopic scale, these stages can be reversed. For every person, every day, there are countless thoughts and ideas, and in response, Tao generates various transformations. If you remain unchanged, Tao remains unchanged, if you change, Tao changes accordingly. With your 10,000 changes, Tao produces 10,000 corresponding transformations. This is the instantaneous sensitivity and adaptability of Tao, always remaining unchanging amidst change, changing amidst the unchanging, eternally one yet endlessly unpredictable and mysterious. This is why it is said that the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. Having understood Tao's characteristic of instantaneous sensitivity and adaptability, we know how to navigate our life's journey. We can skillfully pursue our desires without overstepping boundaries, thus safely and smoothly arriving at the life space we yearn for. For example, since Tao exhibits eternal reliability, our ideals, beliefs, and pursuits must also be steadfast and reliable. We cannot be fickle, changing our minds frequently, or we will never reach our ultimate ideals. However, because Tao also demonstrates instantaneous sensitivity and adaptability, we must be flexible on our journey through life. We cannot rigidly adhere to fixed rules or cling to dogma. We must be like eagles hunting rabbits. Wherever the rabbit runs, we must flap our wings accordingly. When we reach the riverbank, if there's no bridge, we must quickly find a boat to cross. If there's no boat, we must paddle ourselves, or if we cannot swim, we should practice swimming first. If necessary, we must find a piece of wood to help us cross the river. In short, we cannot simply wait passively. In times of danger, it is essential to pray and seek help from the greatest creator promptly because Tao possesses the characteristic of instantaneous sensitivity. Our inner thoughts and activities are instantly perceived by the greatest creator, who will then take corresponding protective measures in the nick of time. When faced with a dilemma, promptly share your best wishes with the greatest creator and then entrust your life to him, letting Tao manage your life. Then, go with the flow, act according to your nature, take advantage of opportunities that arise, and you will not go wrong. When facing decisions, it's crucial to remain calm and not hastily make choices. Avoid harboring a mentality of taking chances or attempting to deceive or lie. Look up 3 feet, you will find divinity. In reality, these divine entities are within us. A slight misstep can lead to drastic consequences. In the darkness, one may harbor ill intentions, but the eyes of the divine are as bright as lightning, and, to avoid misfortune in the visible world, do not offend the invisible. The invisible refers to our inner world, which is unseen by others. If we commit wrongdoings in our inner world, there will be no good outcomes under the bright light of day. Don't assume that unethical actions from yesterday will go unpunished today and deceive yourself into believing you can get away with it. In reality, you are only deceiving yourself. When the time comes, you will deeply regret it because Tao possesses the characteristic of instantaneous sensitivity. It meticulously records all our thoughts and actions, accumulating them for change. When this accumulation reaches a saturation point, even the slightest change will trigger unforeseen events instantaneously. This is determined by Tao's holographic characteristic. In summary, Tao manages, supervises, coordinates, and responds to us at all times and in all places. This is the instantaneous sensitivity and adaptability of Tao. Xuefeng Preaching Tao, 4. Xuefeng. May 18, 2008. Tao is the consciousness of the greatest creator, the driving force behind the movement and transformation of all things in the universe. It is the lifeblood of the universe, it is nature, and the synthesis of all laws. Tao possesses 8 characteristics: holographic order, eternal reliability, instantaneous sensitivity and adaptability, transcendence over time and space with no interior or exterior, spirituality, justice, non-obstruction, and illusory yet actual existence. The 4th characteristic of Tao, transcendence over time and space with no interior or exterior. The entire universe is an integrated whole, much like the human body. Tao permeates the universe, akin to how blood fills the human body. Tao possesses the characteristics of a hologram, making no distinction between inner and outer. In other words, it's impossible to discern what is internal from what is external, let alone what is up or down, what is large or small, what is male or female. This state requires deep immersion to fully experience, similar to how a drop of ink disperses in clear water. After a while, when the ink completely merges into the water, it becomes difficult to distinguish between inner and outer. Tao, akin to ink seamlessly blending into clear water, pervades all things, both material and non-material, permeating all aspects of time and space. Therefore, Tao possesses the characteristic of transcendence of inner and outer. When a stone is thrown into calm water, ripples extend in all directions from the point where the stone lands, but this takes time. If there are obstacles, the ripples may stop there. For instance, waves from Dongting Lake are unlikely to reach the Pacific Ocean. However, Tao is different. A stimulus from any location can almost instantaneously propagate to every material, time, and space in the universe without any hindrance. Any movement in the human world is immediately known in the heavenly realms, and any change in the heavenly realms immediately affects the human world. Just as the human brain, with its central nervous system, can immediately sense a prick on the toe, the universe also has a central system. According to the non-material world chapter, we know that there are 20 parallel worlds in the universe. These 20 parallel worlds are not isolated from each other but are connected by the 0 point, the realm of the greatest creator's residence. The 0 point serves as the central nervous system of the universe. The 20 parallel worlds intersect at the 0 point, and for the 0 point, any subtle changes in these 20 parallel worlds are perceived, much like how the brain perceives any subtle changes in the body's limbs, hair, senses, organs, and viscera. Therefore, for Tao, it transcends time and space, without any constraints. Tao's transcendence is not only manifested in its ability to traverse space, but also time. For humans, we perceive the past, present, and future as distinct, but for Tao, these temporal states are unified and indistinguishable. The past is the present is the future, and the future is the past, they are all part of a unified whole. The past influences the present shapes the future, and in the same way, the present can also affect the past, and the future can influence the present. If a life form was once a fox, is now a human, and will be a celestial being in the future, then the fox, the human, and the celestial being are all manifestations of the same entity. We may perceive them differently, but Tao does not make such distinctions. In Strange Stories from a Chinese Studio, characters often enter the non-material world and engage in romantic relationships, marriage, and childbirth with foxes, bees, and other creatures. The parties involved cannot distinguish between themselves. There are no clear differences between foxes, humans, and bees. Only by stepping outside of that space can one discern who is a bee, who is a fox, and who is a human. Of course, some may argue that Strange Stories from a Chinese Studio is a collection of supernatural tales not to be believed, but that's their perspective, not mine. They've never entered these stories, so they deem them untrustworthy. However, once they enter and then leave, their perspective might change. For me, there is no clear distinction between mythology, fairy tales, supernatural stories, fiction, and reality, just as there is no clear distinction between the 36 8-diagram arrays. If you've been living within just one 8-diagram arrays and never entered any of the other 35 8-diagram arrays, of course, you will never know the existence of the 36 8-diagram arrays. Science fiction novels may seem like products of the author's imagination, but when we enter the space-time tunnel, we realize that they are not mere fantasies, but depictions of reality. It is said that in 1898, British writer Morgan Robertson wrote a novel titled Futility, which eerily predicted the sinking of the Titanic in 1912, 14 years later. Can we then dismiss the novel as merely the author's imagination? In 1865, at the age of 37, French science fiction writer Jules Verne published his science fiction masterpiece, From the Earth to the Moon, which described launching a manned projectile to the moon. The content, data, and details in the novel were almost identical to the data of the Apollo 11 moon landing spacecraft in 1969, 100 years later. Can we say Verne was just imagining things? Some may criticize Xuefeng's depictions of the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Elysium Celestial Islands continent as mere fantasy, but we cannot fault the critics for their lack of understanding of Tao's transcendence of time and space, and the mysteries of thinking. However, believers are blessed. Grasping the concept of Tao's transcendence over time and space is truly extraordinary and incredibly marvelous. If one achieves enlightenment, they can freely roam the universe, instantly entering any life space to play. Moreover, one's thinking can expand limitlessly, and consciousness can transform from human to celestial being in the shortest possible time. The key here is not to differentiate between inner and outer, not to have a concept of time, but to realize that you are within Tao. Since Tao possesses the characteristic of transcending time and space, you also have the innate ability to transcend time and space. You can effortlessly travel from the human world directly to the 1,000-year world, or the 10,000-year world, or the celestial islands continent of the Elysium world. Xuefeng Preaching Tao, 5. Xuefeng. May 19, 2008. Tao is the consciousness of the greatest creator, the driving force behind the movement.